Hello, welcome to the Writing Gals. Tonight we're going to be talking about our 2019 goals, what we accomplished and what we learned. Hopefully we are live on both Facebook and YouTube. Are we, Victorine? That's super cool. I'm excited to be doing this way. So we are getting towards the end of the year, and we have been obviously thinking about what we want to do next year and how things went. I don't know, a few days ago, Amy posted on our Facebook group a question, a two-part thing where she wanted to know what people's takeaways from 2019 were and what their goals were for 2020. Tonight, we're just focusing on the first part, and we're going to include both what we've learned and what we've seen broadly across the comments in that group and from our friends in the publishing industry. So we're going to talk about a whole lot of different things tonight. And we're going to start, though, by seeing what people are actually accomplishing right now as we draw to the very, very end of the year. So, Judy, tell us what you're up to.
So I finished my book last week, which was good. I needed to. And then I just published it this week. And so I've just been doing the launching and trying to do a slow launch. I wasn't quite sure when I was going to start announcing my own things. And today I saw that the rank was just kind of staying and it needed to start moving more. So I just blasted it everywhere, and it's moving up finally, which is good. And yeah, so that's what I have been doing. Hoping I can write some more words again sometime soon, but I'm just enjoying basking in the glory of finishing a book. So.
She sounds so calm.
Oh.
I feel like all of us have been really kind of frantic.
Yeah, I was definitely very frantic last week when I was trying to upload my book in time, and I had 2 minutes to spare. So that was a little crazy, but I'm doing good now that it's all done. I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do now. It's just kind of in the hands of the people. So yeah.
That's awesome. Congrats on the new book. That's always an accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
So, Amy, what have you got? You got new books coming out too.
I do. So my publishing house just put out our first anthology ever, which is really exciting. It's doing pretty decently, but again, we're doing the slow launch. So we're just kind of letting things do what they're doing and tweaking ads. And I think newsletter swaps are going to kick in pretty soon, but not really doing too much because the week of Thanksgiving is normally a kind of time to launch. So I'll just do it'll be what it is. And then my Christmas in book comes out on the 24th, which is that a Monday or a Sunday? It was whatever day I could put it as, bring my pre-order up, the soonest I could release it. So that's when it is. This is my first book I'm going to launch wide. So I'm kind of excited and nervous to see how that goes. Some of my books that I have pulled from KU and are pushing wide have been doing decent. It's definitely given me a lot more data in terms of my ads and knowing what I should push and what I shouldn't, instead of being like, well, how did I know if that click was a KU click or not? So that's been kind of exciting. And planning my year for next year. Oh, and a lot of people have been joining me on Facebook group the last 2 days where we've been writing 10,000 words a day. So I was able to write 11,000 yesterday and 10,000 today. So if I have another big day like this tomorrow, I should hopefully finish my book, which is a good thing because I have 2 more books to finish before the end of the year. So having a focused, days of writing, and it's been teaching me how I write, and that I can actually write in the morning when I used to think I couldn't. And I do better when I can write 1,000 and then go clean a room or take a shower or eat some lunch, and then I can come back. And splitting it up like that has really helped me a lot. So it's kind of helped me know what I can and cannot do. And then thinking about my goals for next year. So where I want to go and that type of thing has been pretty exciting.
Yes. Every time we talk to Amy, there's something else going on, something else she's doing. Victorine, let's hear about your week because I think a lot of what we've both accomplished are the same thing. So you share all our good news.
Yes, so Michelle and I are in a compilation together, and that launched this past week, and it's been doing really well, and we're super excited about how well it's doing. It's 4 novellas that are Christmas romance, and it's also got recipes in it, which is really fun. So it's the first time I've ever done anything like that. So that's been going really well, and I'm also working on a Christmas romance just by myself that I've been trying to get done. So my goal is to get that done and published by the beginning of December. So I'm a little behind on it. So I'm hoping tomorrow I can just write all day long.
I'm in exactly the same place that I was in last year that I told myself I wasn't going to do again. And it's also because of the same anthology. And the only reason I did it was because it was so successful last year that I couldn't just not, couldn't say no to it. And so I did it, and I'm behind again on getting my own title out. And I'm on chapter 3 because I also scrapped my first attempt because it was a boring start to a book. And so I'm starting over, and I only have a few days to write the book because I need to get it out. I'm mostly stressing out because my publisher or my editor was wanting to take December off. So now I'm like, uh-oh, either she's going to be really nice and help me out, or I'm going to have to find someone else to edit my book.
Oh my.
So it's stressful, but I just keep telling myself one way or the other, I'm going to end the madness by the beginning of December, and I'm going to take the rest of the month off because I need a break, and I need to enjoy my family and just have fun as I gear up for next year. So that's kind of the perfect segue. Oh, and I also released the 4th book of my young adult series last week. So that further complicated it. But I'm really excited that I got the first 4 books out in that series in 1 year. That was pretty good accomplishment for me. And it's doing well. So we're going to talk about 2019. At the beginning, actually, it was the end of last year, we had a podcast where we talked about what our goals were going to be for 2019. So I don't remember specifically what mine are, and I don't know that many of us actually do, but we're going to talk about how we did in meeting those goals.
Well, we can always just go back and watch the video.
I think I remember
have it on out in the interwebs. I don't have my list, which obviously shows how dedicated I've been to my goals, but maybe my goal for next year is to make a list of goals and then keep the goals lists not in the garbage. Visible to me.
That would be a good start. Get better at goal, remember,
saving,
recording, saving. So
I think one of my goals was to hit 10,000 newsletter subscribers, but I didn't do that. But I'm taking a newsletter class from Tammy something or other, who's going to come onto the podcast actually and talk about, she's the newsletter ninja. So if you know who that is, so I'm going to take her class. She's going to have a new one coming in January. So I felt frustrated. I could have gotten 10,000 subscribers, but I felt like they weren't going to be good subscribers. I need to learn how to do onboarding, and I need to learn how to gut the current ones I have. I mean, I have very, very dedicated followers who consistently open my newsletters and consistently click, but I also have ones that don't. So, and I'd rather pay for ones that do than pay for ones that don't. So I may not have met that goal, but I have a plan for 2020 to get good amount of newsletter subscribers that actually click and buy. And I think that's more important than just having a list number. Oh, I have 20,000 people on my list, but only 500 of them open. Then there's really no point in having that many people. So that was one of my goals.
Yeah. For me, I remember I wanted to get a reader magnet out. I did do that. And I wanted to increase my newsletter subscribers, and I did that by more than doubled it. So that was good. And then it wasn't super huge before. So and then I wanted to publish 4 books, and I just did that. So yay, I met those goals.
Yay.
Yeah.
I had a financial goal which I did not meet, but my goal for next year is to not make any more financial goals because I'm not in control completely over my financial goals, but I am in control over like my word count per day or how many books I publish and things like that. And so I'm going to be more focused on goals that I actually have more control over.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say ditto to that because I also had financial goal. Mine was to double my income this year, and I got sort of close, but I didn't quite make it. I think that if the end of the year had lived up to last year's earnings, I would have done that. But my sales had a huge spike in April and have been on a steady decline ever since. And so I am not bringing in the end of the year numbers that I hoped I would. So I think I made $49,000 last year, and I made for the 2018 tax year, and I made just slightly over $90,000 for the 2019 tax year.
We still have another month. You could totally.
Well, no, because the
make
tax
it.
year is over. So yeah, so it went through the tax year.
Oh, that's true.
October. So I went like November 1st, October 31st, as like what my like fiscal year was, because I get paid for November and January. So anyway, which 2020 is now off to a bad start because November is not going super well. So that's just wonderful. And I had ambition for my stretch goal to be a 6-figure author, and obviously I didn't get there either. And so the thing is that I was really bummed about this. I was bummed because my sales have been declining. I was bummed because I didn't make these goals that I set. And then I just had to kind of slap myself and be like, girl, stop being ridiculous. Like, you did amazing compared to what you thought was possible just a few years ago. You never would have thought that you could make it here. And so, I think the perspective is just really important, that we do understand that the money only tells part of the story, and that we are constantly changing our perspective on what is good, like what's successful, and so
Yes.
that's a really tricky line to draw in the sand, where success is, because it's going to constantly change for you. So the things that you were able to be successful at, what helped you to get there? So I'll just start. So like the money that I was able to make and the growth that I had this year was in great part due to not only getting out more titles. I released, or by the end of the year, I'll have released 12 stories this year, 11 right now. All of them were novellas except one full length. But the reason that it was effective was I was able to put out 2 box sets, and I was able to finish series, and I was able to pull people through a series and release them often enough that I kept people moving through them. So it's interesting because people keep saying you can't make money writing novellas, and I am making decent money selling novellas, and I'm not even spending much on marketing or promoting. So I really do think it was having the connection in the series and getting them out in a good, timely manner that helped me to be successful this year. Plus writing to market. Like I hit some tropes really hard with all of my series. Anybody else?
I would say for me, I came I can't remember what my financial goal was, but I think it was to double what I made the tax year. And I think I got pretty close. I don't think I doubled it completely, but I definitely made a lot more this year than I did the year before, which comparatively, where my expectations were when I first started publishing and to where I am now, is pretty awesome. So I'm really grateful that I made the extra that I did. And I think I did that with Facebook ads, AMS ads, and publishing previous books that maybe weren't selling for me anymore as a box set. My biggest seller this year has now been my Billionaire box set, which is pretty crazy considering I wrote that a year and a half ago. So I think understanding streams of revenue and where they can all come from is super important. And then I think Also, I made, a decent amount of money in audio, not a crazy amount of money in audio, but it definitely keeps, it adds a couple of thousand sometimes just $1,000 to whatever it is that I made that month, which has been really helpful. And I think publishing every month has been helpful. And sometimes I didn't have months where I did not publish. So it was helpful to really focus on selling my backlist. My goal, well, we can talk about goals next year or next time, but basically like I made money, but I also spent money. And I want to get to that point where that number flips, because I don't want to have to release all the time. And I write the books that I want to write, and I love them when I write them. So I don't mind having a lot of books to release, but I don't want to feel like I have to release a lot. So I want to kind of pull back on that, but still grow my income. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works out. But I have enough of a backlist now that it should be pulling its weight. It's kind of depressing to see your old backlist books making like 50 cents a day. And you're like, no, like those are words that need to be out there. But then I think my brain can't comprehend the amount of people that can read. Like even my most successful books ever have only had like such a small amount of people actually read them compared to the amount of people in the world who have books and Kindles and reading. So I think sometimes I'm like, well, that's because I've reached all the readers that's ever going to want to read that book. And you're like, yeah, that's not true. Like I probably have not even hit the amount of readers that would fill up my entire city. Like I'm probably much smaller than that. So, I mean, when you think of it that way, then you're like, wow, then there is a ton of readers out there that don't even know I exist and don't even know about my book. So it kind of gets into your mind and plays mind games, but I totally got sidetracked in what I was talking about. But I think releasing and having ads, that's what helped me get to where I wanted to be. And making changes when they needed to be changed, I think was big. Changing covers, changing blurbs, deciding to write in some series and deciding not to in others. I think being able to flow with way things were going was definitely important.
How about you, Judy? People are commenting about your bangs.
Yeah, I just got bangs today. Spur of the moment. Yay.
Right side is for bangs and left side is for no bangs.
Side part, like me and the green hat.
Yeah. So for me, for my how I accomplished my goals, I made myself set little goals. I found that I do a lot better when I set smaller word count goals instead of these big, huge. Like if I tried to set a goal to write 10,000 words a day, like Amy did, I'd get like nothing done. So I have to just set little tiny ones, and I usually find if I am able to meet those little goals, like say I need to get 500 words, then I get that. I feel good about what I'm doing. Like, oh, good, I'm having success, and then I can come back and do more. So that's what I've been trying to do this year, and I wrote those 4 books, and it's been good. So
during some of my hardest times recently, I have been giving myself sticker charts where I get a sticker for every 100 words because I just had to make something happen and feel good about myself.
Yeah, I actually would find if I just like wrote down all the words that I got in a different sprint session and just added, I'm like, ooh, like I added however many words I added, even if it was just only a little bit, and I just felt better. So
yeah, it's important to celebrate those successes. How about you, Victorine?
So one of the goals that I made during the year was I really wanted to try rapid releasing. And I know that I can't write a 50,000 word novel and release it, that quickly. So I decided I was going to try and write some shorter ones, 30,000 words, and rapid release them. And I had to find a planner and write down word count goals per day and schedule it all out, when it would go to the editor, when it would go, to the beta readers and all of that, and get it all scheduled so that I knew I could meet those goals. But I did meet those goals. And so I felt very pleased with myself that I was able to do that. And I know I can write a 30,000 word draft in 18 days now. And so that makes me very happy.
It's so exciting. Okay. What challenges did you guys face? For me personally, I struggled with burnout this year, and I spent a ton of time in self-reflection and trying to figure out how I got there and how to keep from getting there again and how to kind of recover from it. And I've realized some important things, that my burnout was caused partially because I set some really ambitious deadlines with pre-orders that locked me into it over periods of time when I needed to devote a lot more time to my family. So like summer vacation when my kids were home. So that was like really stupid. And it wasn't necessarily the writing that burned me out. It was the pressure, and it was the strain from all of my personal life that I needed more energy for. And so when I gave my family the energy and focus that they needed, it meant I had very little left for these really, really horrible deadlines and pre-orders. And so it just exhausted my well, and I had to fill it back up again. And it was kind of good in the long run, because I'm just starting my career. And if I can learn this lesson with so few actual consequences and keep myself from getting into that bad place again, it will be well worth, the struggle that I've been having the last few months. So I'm very, very aware of how it feels for me to be slipping into burnout, and I'm aware of what got me there. And so I'm hoping it will help me to avoid it in the future. So even our struggles and failures are, of huge benefit to us. Anybody else have anything similar you want to share?
Just things that were difficult. Is that what? So for me, I, as I've talked about before, I had, and even Jared was on, having Jared be home, that was fun and good, to have him be a stay-at-home dad for a long time, but it also put like a ton of pressure on me and my creativity. And, it was great when I was making like a lot of money, especially last fall. It was amazing. But then when I would see the numbers start to go down, and I knew that I wasn't going to have another book come out for like 2 more months, then I would start to like freak myself out a bit and get like, I can't do this. And then, and then I'd get the book out and I'd have them raise again. I'm like, okay, yeah, we can keep doing this. This is great. So it was just a lot of like ups and downs. And then finally in August, I'm like, I need to not be crazy all the time. So let's see if we can figure something else out. And he got a job, and so now it's not all on me. But then he started a business, and so now it's a little crazy too. But we will be great next year. So
yeah, I was going to mention that too. So part of my struggles also were heightened by the fact that my sales were declining at the same time, and that the series I was working so hard on and burning myself out with was not performing the way I had hoped it would. And so it just added to the effect of disappointment and frustration and, stress, over the whole thing. So be aware that projects may not go the way you want them to, and your royalties may decline at times when it's emotionally difficult. I don't know if it's ever emotionally okay for your sales to go down, but there are sometimes it is actually worse than others. So you kind of really have to prepare to happen.
Yeah.
So for mine, I did struggle with a series that didn't do as well as I had hoped as well. And for me, it was stepping into a new writing space that I hadn't really been in before. And so I tried really hard to make that series work, and it just hasn't gone the way that I had hoped it would. So I just try really to be flexible and tell myself, it's okay if this doesn't sell really well. I can write in another space next time when I do my next series. So I'm planning my next series to be back in a space where I know that I sell better.
Well, and I think also we have a limited view of what's going to happen in the future now. So just because you wrote the series and it didn't do great at this moment doesn't mean it can't sell. And that's something I learned this year as well, that you can't just throw ads on any book and have it sell. There are just some times where it's just not what the market's looking for, or at least the audience that you're targeting is looking for. And you can spend a lot of money trying to make a book work that shouldn't work. And I've had to put, I throw ads up and I'm like, okay, well, let's see how it does this month. And if it doesn't move right away, then I go, okay, obviously this isn't the month, or I need to change the cover. I think there's a lot of my box sets and a lot of my covers that I've just changed the way they look. And that doesn't mean that next year fake marriages aren't going to be the hot thing. And maybe that's what people are going to be looking for and the trend that's popular. And I will have that series in my back pocket to then say, oh, you want that? Here's some more, read some more. So I mean, that's what's exciting about having a backlist and having, being able to revive things and run promos later on where things might come out. So maybe next year you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I wrote that series last year because that thing is selling me this year. And I think that's what's exciting about being an author is that we have the product that we can now use years and years to come. So
Yeah, I agree.
I like the way you think. That's encouraging. I'm like, oh, YA is dead. It'll never sell again.
We just want Netflix to hurry up and make their movies, and then
I know. I'm like, I'm just like, I'm gonna have my box set come out when that next movie that I know is coming out, and hopefully it will all just catch fire and be amazing.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and I just think, I don't know. It's just having my box set for my Billionaires do as well as it did when I released it, which really shocked me. Made me think, you know what? You have these words, you have this product, and later on you change the cover, you change your blurb, you package it differently, and you never know what's going to be that ticket that's going to make it sell because the words are good. The words are there. It's just, is the market there, and are you giving them what they want? I guess maybe I'm just stubborn, and I'm like, no, everything will work. I just have to figure out when and how.
Well, I think this year definitely has taught everybody some lessons about not expecting things to happen. Like we all expect a certain month that it's going to be good and it's not good, or we expect a certain promotion to work because it's always worked before and then it doesn't work. We think, oh, this is the perfect time to release this, and then something happens with Amazon algorithms or something and everything goes crazy. Amazon changes something and other things stop working, so it's really important that you don't base everything that you do on what has always happened before, because it's so obvious. The only thing we can expect is for everything to change, for everything to be different and constantly be moving. So like I had a BookBub, my first BookBub ever in April, and it did really well for me. And I had a record month and it was great. And then I had a BookBub a few weeks ago, and it bombed. I mean, I had almost the same amount of downloads from BookBub as I had before, but I did not have the tail to earn the money after promotion. It just didn't happen. It happened during some funky thing going on with Amazon, and that's just what it was. Those are the breaks, and I can't do anything about it. And I have expected that the end of the year was going to see it bring an upturn in the market, and it may have for some people, but for me, it hasn't happened this year. You expect young adult to keep selling at the price that it was, and then that market changes and shifts, and we just can't expect anything to stay the same. So let's move on. So Amy posted what people's takeaway from 2019 was. And I kind of went through and pulled a lot of the themes and concepts that people were talking about over and over again. And everybody's laughing at me because I listed them all and they all start with P's, because guys, almost all of them did. And so we're just going to talk about the 15 P's of 2019. So the first one is procrastination. There were so many comments that people posted where they wanted to stop procrastinating, that procrastination hurt them in 2019. So the interesting thing about procrastination is that has been a big focus of my burnout recovery, because I procrastinate so bad. But what's really interesting is that I have to learn that is how I work. And it's going to happen. I have to expect it. I have to plan for it. I have to allow myself to do it. And then I have to figure out how to harness it and use it as a superpower. Because procrastination actually is the process that some people need to go through to prepare to write and to get themselves ready to write. Or it's a symptom that something is wrong that they need to fix. So procrastination is not just this big, ugly monster that we all have to slay. It's it's a factor that we have to, use and work around or with or through as part of our writing process. And for me, I actually am learning to look on it as something positive because I took the Clifton Strengths Assessment. Becca Symes has talked about it a lot in her QuickCast, and she's been doing all these series on studying all the different strengths. So I went and finally took it and found out that my number one strength theme is input. And that means that I thrive and do really well when I just fill myself full of information all the time. And so when I'm writing and I'm just putting out, I'm actually, putting myself in a deficit. And so I need time to fill back up again. I need to watch movies. I need to read books. I need to, be doing research and pulling all these ideas. And that's what I thrive on and makes me productive and creative and energized. And so procrastination is not actually a bad thing for me. And it's actually the time when I am doing that very important process that my brain needs. So
it's interesting that you say that because that's exactly what I came up with for myself as well. Is when I'm procrastinating, it's when I need more input. I need to be watching and reading and taking in that creativity so that I can spit it back out again.
Yeah, I'm very similar too. And then I also find that I procrastinate when I'm like overwhelmed, when I'm like expecting way more out of myself than I feel like I can do. And so if I lower my expectations, then I'm able to usually get past that. And then another spot that I procrastinated a lot this year was when I had like 5 months between deadlines because I was doing the collaboration, and that one was set, and I'm like, well, I can't write 2 books in that time. And so instead of trying to start one and then do the other one, I just kind of procrastinated a lot for a couple months. I was also burned out and dealing with a bunch of other things in my life. So I was not in a good headspace anyway. But I just learned that if that deadline is clear out, I think I have all the time in the world and I will take it. And that's not usually a good thing if you want to put out lots of books. So yeah.
And see, even though I'm not a fast writer, procrastination actually helps me to write faster and it helps me to write better. And the pressure is good for me. I produce well and good, quality and quantity well when I put myself under the pressure due to procrastination. So it actually helps me.
Yeah, I find that too. People are always like, I love the ending of her books. They're all good. I'm like, well, that's because I was like way down to the wire. I had to just spit it all out. And so maybe I should be like that at the beginning of books.
Yeah, I think we get out of our own way when we get into that kind of pressure. Anybody else have anything about procrastination, or should we move on?
I was just going to say I procrastinate when I'm struggling or I have taken my book in the wrong direction. So if I feel like the need to procrastinate, it's normally because I'm bored with my book. And that normally means that I took a wrong turn and I need to go back into my book and fix it. And I am very different. I make a point every day to watch TV or read a book or do something. Like that's how I unwind at night. I have a hard time falling asleep if I don't do that. So I am always constantly inputting stuff that way. So that helps me. So I don't have to necessarily feel that drain on me. But I know if I am like not wanting to get into my story, it's because I took a wrong turn. And the one thing that I have learned these last 2 days in writing 20,000 words was that you are forced to like everything you write. So you only write things that are interesting to you. And so I think like a lot of times people say, oh, when you write more, and this I think we talk about later, but when you write more, it's going to get worse. And honestly, for me, I don't think it's that way. And I think because I don't have time to procrastinate, I'm like, okay, I have to get the words out. So wherever I am in the story, it has to be exciting, or I'm going to be so bored and I'm just going to be like, a word a minute trying to figure out where I'm going to take this sentence. So every scene has to be exciting and new and fun. And it's been actually really eye-opening for me, because I think sometimes we get lost in the story and then we procrastinate and then we get lost again. And then we get in there and we're there for 1,500 words and we get bored and we come back out. You know what I mean? But I think when you're in it and you're forcing yourself to do it, which is what you guys just talked about. I mean, Judy said the last bits of her book are so great because she has to get it done. So I think there's like a yin and a yang to that too, like sometimes just getting in and staying in your book is actually what's going to keep you excited. And I don't know, that was just like an epiphany I had these last, because I when I get around 15,000, 20,000 words, that's when it's like my longest stretch of time where I'm writing so little because I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. But now I'm 35,000 words into my book, and I was 15,000 2 days ago, and I'm like, wow, that was really fast. Like, I had to make every scene interesting, or I was not going to be able to write that many words. So, anyways,
Yes. See, with me, the beginning of my books always take me forever, just because I'm trying to make everything I'm trying to make it all work out just exactly the way that I want it to. Like, 'cause I have this plan in my head, and it just needs to lead to where I want it to go. But then at the end, I'm like, well, I just have to throw out all those ideas, and this is how it's actually going to go. This is what the characters are making happen. So I need to learn to do that at the beginning, and then I can write it all
your
fast.
book in reverse. So like
Yeah.
write the ending first, and then you'll know how to write the beginning.
So the one time I wrote a book out of order, it took 4 years. So I don't want to do that again.
We're gonna get to that P in a minute. That one's processed. So hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on. So we're gonna talk about pace really quick, because people were talking a lot about that they got burned out because they were working too hard and too fast, burning the candle at both ends kind of thing. So there's a lot of discussion about what's sustainable as far as how quick you're writing your books and putting them out, and what's profitable, and how you find that balance in your personal life. So
can I take this one? Because this actually reminds me. Actually, oh no, you're going to talk about it. Can I join the next one too?
yeah.
With pre-orders?
Yeah,
So
we're going to talk.
This
Let's blend together.
Okay, so this actually, for me, because I run pre-orders, and someone had asked a question about pre-orders, and I'm starting to feel very strongly about them. First of all, I don't work on something that I don't think is going to sell, and I know this because I will put a pre-order up. There was something kind of freeing that I read in 20 books. Somebody posted, they're like, you know what? We put up pre-orders, and then we put up ads, and if that book didn't sell on pre-orders, then we just scrapped it. And they took that pre-order hit, because I think you're allowed one. Maybe hopefully it's one per year, because I already had one done on me. And so I'm hoping that they will reinstate me later. Or you just write the one book and then you kill the series. But they were like, they wanted to invest their time and their money into a series that they knew was going to work, or a book that they knew there was going to work. And so somebody asked, well, do you do pre-orders? Or maybe it was in a different group. It wasn't in the Writing Gals. How do you feel about pre-orders? And for me, pre-orders are what set the pace of what I'm going to do. So I will come up with an idea. I will come up with, I will study the market. I will come up with titles and covers, and then I will decide what I'm going to do. And then I come up with a blurb. I come up with a storyline so that I can come up with a blurb. And then I start running ads on my pre-order. And you don't have to run a ton of money. I mean, you can just say, I'm going to stick $50 for this week, and I'm going to run. And will I get pre-orders? Because that, to me, is a huge determiner of the success of the book. Because if people are pre-ordering it, that means they're purchasing the book. That means you're finding the people that aren't just reading in KU, or the book was interesting enough they didn't want to forget it, so they said, oh, I'll just pre-order it and I'll stick it on my computer. So to me, I want to be excited about projects because I know they're going to sell when I put the book up. Maybe they're not going to sell amazing, but I know I'm going to find readers and be able to retarget the people that bought the pre-order. So for me, the pre-order set the pace is kind of where I was going with it. And that helps me get excited, and that helps me set a good pace. Sorry.
No, I think that pacing is so important, because we have to understand that everybody's going to be different too. I think we feel all this pressure in the industry, and I've seen it from so many of my friends, and I felt it myself, that there is a real pressure, again, another P word, in this industry to put books out quickly, and yes, why? Because it does work, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to do it, or everybody has to do it at the same speed. It just means that you need to find what works for you. And sometimes that's your trial and error that results in this didn't work, and so just say, okay, that didn't work, what will? And we all have to find the pace as far as our publishing pace and our writing pace and all these different things that work for us and help us to be happy and help us to meet our goals and move forward. So it's definitely something that is, valuable point for reflection. how did you do this year with your pacing, and what can you do to make next year better? Pre-orders are working better this year, I think, because Amazon's made some changes to pre-orders. A lot of them. They've taken away the rule that you have to have the manuscript before you set up the pre-order, so you can just upload it when it's ready, up to 4 days before it goes live. They are more flexible with you making changes and moving your date back, so you're not automatically put in pre-order jail for a year if you have to move a pre-order date. And I feel like the benefits of having a pre-order for your rank and on launch day has changed a little bit. I think it's definitely making your rank spike if you have a good number of pre-orders now, which is also like a weapon that you could easily lose control of. Like some of my pre-orders meant that I had spikes on the first day, and so that slow launch thing is a much more difficult thing to manage, and you have to be prepared to support your rise in rank after a pre-order. So it's definitely 2019 has changed the game on pre-orders in a lot of ways. Does anybody else have anything about pre-orders that they want to talk about before we go on? Mostly I've been hearing positive things.
Yeah, I really like that I can set them a year out. I'm not going to go crazy and set up a bunch of pre-orders because that would make me crazy. But I liked that when I do have my next book coming out, I can set it for next November and just plan to publish hopefully in February. But if life happens, then I'm still going to be okay. But I can still try and catch all of those people reading book 2, hopefully, where before I wouldn't have dared set up the pre-order right away because I don't write that fast.
Yeah, that's another change I forgot. They gave us the year-long pre-order date instead of just, 3 months before?
Yeah. 90 days.
So that's definitely been a big change.
And I think Amazon now will send out your pre-order to your readers in emails, and BookBub as well will let people know about your pre-order. So I think it can definitely be added in as a tool to help you in launching. And then I look at pre-orders too as like, okay, the days leading up to my book releasing are kind of my slow launch days. And then especially if and honestly though, I hear it's more in KU, books in KU that shoot straight up. And some people are trying to decide if maybe it's because that's when everybody downloads your book, because KU page reads have also shot up the first day a lot faster than they have previously. I remember it used to be like sales, and then it was like a little bit of page reads, and then it wasn't until like day 5 or 6, that's when you started seeing the huge spikes. And now it's like the first day I'm spiking super high than I was comparatively. So there's that. But I think there's a lot more support, I think, in all of the platforms and things like that in promoting pre-orders. So I definitely am a big fan of pre-orders now.
Yeah, and you can apparently do Audible pre-orders too if you have all your ducks in a row and have the manuscript completed. And
you can set your date for a release at a certain time. So if you're a much more organized person than I am, you can get your audiobook done and uploaded and run through, and then they can release them all at the same day. And that's the goal for next year, to get more organized than I am.
So let's talk about the word possible, because I saw that as a big theme. So many people discovered what was possible this year, that it is possible for them to write, it's possible for them to publish, and it's possible for them to earn a living. It's possible for them to run ads, that they can do all of these hard things. And I thought that was so exciting, because I know in our group, we really try to support and encourage people to believe in what's possible. And that's what our whole platform is established on, So did you guys discover anything that was possible this year that you didn't know was possible before?
Well, rapid releasing for me, but I already talked about that. But I think just setting goals and working hard towards them. And if your goal is to learn ads, then spend some time every day, digging in there and learning it.
Yep.
Sometimes it takes ripping off that Band-Aid and just going for it.
Yep. I learned it was possible for me to publish in multiple genres or categories in 1 year. I published in young adult, Contemporary, and Regency, and they've all earned me money this year. So everybody says you can't earn money or be successful writing in multiple genres, and this year I'm learning it's possible to do that under one name. So that's really exciting, and that was something that has been a big experiment, and I'm still experimenting with it, but I'm feeling really positive. So promotion is another P word. Everybody is talking about promotion because, number one, everybody realizes you have to do it. So they spent this year either learning how to promote or learning how not to promote. But there's mostly a lot of talk about the fact that that's the only way to be successful now. And it goes into some more P words, which is pay to play. That the market has shifted to being something that you have to be prepared to spend on ads, or you're not going to be able to be competitive. Any thoughts on that from you guys?
Well, I think as authors, we take advantage of the fact that we can put up a book and it can sell. Because if you think about all the stores that you see come in and out of your community that are open for 6 months and then they die because no one knows they're there. There's like that one hole in the building that you can now list like 5 different companies that have been in there the last 3 years, and it's like the cursed building and nobody wants to be in there, because it is hard with all of the media and all of the other things that people see, and so we take advantage, and I realize that when Amazon stops promoting my book, I feel it. And I realize how much I depend on Amazon, and it makes me mad when they change things, but it also makes me excited because I'm like, we're not at the peak of publishing. We're still at the very beginning of indie publishing because Amazon's still tweaking how they let readers know that we're there. So it's frustrating, but it also is kind of relieving to me because I hear some people like the gold rush is over. Nobody's looking for books. Everybody's reading bad books. All these things weigh you down as an author.
The self-publishing is ruined. I've seen that.
Yes. Yeah. And there are people out there saying these things, and it gets in my head and it gets me worried that like, well, then I got to make all the money I can now and stock it away because who knows? But I think having that sort of attitude also can create the procrastination. It can create the burnout. It can create this, well, why the crap am I even doing any of this? Because it's just going to die next year. And so I think you have to kind of change the way you think about it. And for me, pay to play is really what's taken my career to the next level and will continue to take it to the next level. There are people out there that have a lot more money to spend than I do. And I look at them and think, well, why I should be able to spend that much money because then I could make that much money. You get that comparison feeling towards them. But I think paying to play isn't something you should not go into debt for. Obviously, don't do that. But I don't think it's something you should be scared of. And it's not necessarily a doom and gloom type of situation here. If you're spending 20 grand to make 25, you're still making 5 grand, but I wouldn't suggest doing that. Pull your ads way back and figure out something different. If I got to that point, if I'm not doubling my money at least, then I stop running ads on it. And I would never suggest that to anyone. I'd rather spend $500 and make $2,000 than make $5,000. If you have 20 grand to kind of give to, Facebook or Amazon and then wait until Amazon pays you 60 days later, then, go ahead and do that. But I wouldn't suggest doing that. I would probably pull way back, study the market, find a hot niche, write in that, have that book become popular because that's what readers are looking for. Make friends with authors, do newsletter swaps. There's other ways to do publishing than just paying all the money you possibly can into it. So don't ever take out a loan on your house. Don't do any of that stuff to pay to play. So
I'm going to jump in real quick too, because I have a different perspective on it that I wanted to share to give a little bit of hope out there. Because like I said, I did make $90,000 and I only spent $3,000 to $4,000 on promotions the whole year. And and that was on novellas. It wasn't even on full lengths that I was getting lots of page reads on. It kind of blows my mind when I think about it, actually. But it's possible. I think there's a lot of discussion over the fact that so many people are working really hard trying to get those high ranks. And that's where you're spending the money. You're spending the money trying to get your rank really, really, really pushed up to the top of the charts. But that doesn't mean there's nowhere else to find profitability. You can make money even if your ranks are not super awesome. Okay? Even if they're just decent, if you're visible at all and you've got a good cover, you've got a good title, you've got a good tagline, good copy on all of your books, and then you provide good stories and build your audience. All of those same principles that we've been teaching from the beginning still apply, and they still work for you. You can make money and earn a living doing this, even if you can't spend a lot of money on advertising. You're not probably going to ever make it into the top 100 on Amazon without spending a ton of money. And you're maybe not going to make, 7 figures or multiple 6 figures without spending on ads. But that doesn't mean that you can't make a living. It doesn't mean you can't sell books. So you just take everything that you know is possible and all the things you want to try and want to do, but don't forget those basic principles of good publishing, and remember how important they are, and that paying to sell a book that isn't well written is possible. We see people do it all the time. You can spend $15,000 on ads for a book that is not a good book, and you can sell it and you can make money at it. But that doesn't mean that book is going to be sustainable. It doesn't mean that it's going to be successful over time. And it doesn't mean that, that spending that much money is the only way to do it. So.
And I would say that's one of the biggest takeaways that I had this year, was that reaching top 100 isn't as exciting and fun as it seems to be. And I would much rather naturally, if I wanted to hit top 100, I want to hit it naturally, because my book that I have written has hit a hot niche and it is being picked up, and Amazon is pushing it and pushing it. You can financially push a book as high, super high, but if that profitability isn't there, then it's not worth it for you. For me now, it's like, okay, I will release a book, I'll see where it goes, and then I will spend the money to maintain that so that I don't drop. But I won't, I very much against now. Sometimes I'm like, oh, well, let's see what happens. But especially if it's later on in the series, then I know I have all the books to follow up with it. But I'm much more like, it's not as important. Rank is not as important. And I think as authors, we obsess about rank. Like with and that's for me, taking my books out of KU and going wide with a couple of them was so freeing to me, because I was so bogged down with the idea of rank. Like everything, my worth as an author was based on my rank. And I was like, this is not how it should be. I shouldn't be looking at my rank on KU. I should be looking at my sales versus my spend. And that's really kind of changed my mind. And so I'm going to let everybody out here who's listening know, stop obsessing about your rank. You should know it. You should be aware of it, but you are so much more than 1,000 in the Amazon store, because it's so fickle. It changes. We're not even 100% sure how they calculate it. And yet we value our worth as an author based on it. And so now I say, let your book go as naturally as high as it goes. And then if you have the funds, spend to maintain it, because you'll start seeing that profit coming in because your book is naturally hanging out there anyways. And then you're just keeping yourself visible, because new books get published every day. Like a ton of books get published every single day. And so there are different people vying for the visibility. But definitely for me, that was kind of an epiphany that I took away from this year.
Yeah, I think that is so important. It cannot be overstated, your points that you were making. So we're going to go on to plotting really quick. There was some discussion about what people learned when they were plotting books. And we all know that there's pantsers and pantsers and plotters and architects and gardeners and planters, and like people have there's all these words and all these terms, and it's all about your process and how you get your book written. So I think that people are experiencing in 2019 what worked for them and what didn't. And I saw a lot of people say, well, if I'm a pantser and you try and make me plot, it's actually just going to make me a procrastinator because it doesn't work. Some people, I did that myself a lot, where I have sat down and I'm like, okay, I need to write this book fast, and I can't afford it time for mistakes. So it has to be just the way needs to be. And when I do that, what ends up happening is I'm writing a boring, predictable book that I don't care about because nothing exciting or creative is happening in the process for me. And so I've spent a lot of time. I am not a pantser. I am not a plotter. I am a prepared I prepare. That is what I'm a preparer. I need to come up with a full term for it. So, like I said, I like input. I'm a learner. All these things contribute to what process works for me, and that is filling my pockets with all the things that I want to know going into a book. I want to spend time on Pinterest, building Pinterest boards with pictures and images and quotes and thoughts and ideas. And I want to do research, and I want to learn about all the different things that I'm going to talk about. And I want to have my candy bar scenes, the things I'm excited about. And I'm just going to take all this stuff and I'm just going to carry it in this big mental backpack. And I'm going to charge into my story. And that's how I write. That's how I do well. That's when I'm excited. That's when things happen for me that are amazing. And I got away from it this year. And I think that was part of why I struggled so much to write my books, is I left my own process. I abandoned it trying to find something better. And those things didn't work for me. So I'm going back to my process that I know excites me and drives my creativity. So did you guys have any sort of light bulb moments?
I did the same thing you did. I tried to plot more to try and get faster. And I realized after doing that my process isn't like that. And it stunts me, and it made me have to rewrite stuff because I went in a direction that it didn't naturally go in. I was trying to force it because those were the things that I had put down on my paper. And so I had to toss out words, and that is painful when you're trying to get something written fast. So yeah, I'm going back to my other process as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar too. I like to outline my books a lot and write down all these ideas that I want to put into my books. And then I find that usually I end up throwing everything out and writing something different. And so I need to learn to hopefully just write in the future and maybe have some ideas and hope that I get to them. But if I don't, I need to be okay with letting them go.
Yeah.
And one day I will get that scene that I've been trying to put in several books. I will get it someday. Next book for sure. Yeah.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
We're all dying to see what the scene is.
I know.
We keep hearing about it. Okay, so we're going to briefly touch on publishing pitfalls because we've already talked about a bunch of them, like burnout, fluctuation in the market and in your sales, and the amount of stress it takes. So I think everybody's just understanding that there is a cost, and there are problems, and there are obstacles that we're all going to face in this. That publishing is the best job in the world. We love it. We would never do anything else for most of us, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with its fair share of difficulties, right? So just that's something we all need to be aware of. And then I use prudence because I had to keep the P thing going on. So prudence is actually one of my, I know, it's just like, okay, nobody said prudence, but I'm saying prudence. Prudence is being very, very careful and cautious, being wise when you're approaching different things. And so that is when we talk about balance in our life and in our writing life, our personal life, and how it all mixes together, and being intentional in how we do things and how we plan, and especially not comparing ourselves to others. And I saw that mentioned a whole bunch. I saw a bunch of people talking about it over here in our comment section. People want to know if we have comparisonitis. Do we compare ourselves? And I absolutely do. I try so hard not to, but I do it. And it's so hard when you've got amazing friends, especially that you work with really, really closely, that you talk to constantly all day long. And you know everything they're doing and everything they're planning to do and all their successes. And if you think we share numbers with you guys, we really share numbers with each other. So yes,
and we watch each other's ranks, and like,
we stalk each other's books and reviews and ranks and all that stuff. So and we do it for some of you that are watching too. So yeah, we do. I struggle with it, and it doesn't bring me happiness. And sometimes it makes me try to go off in a direction that I shouldn't be going because somebody's doing this thing and it looks amazing and they're having a lot of success. And I'm like, oh, I need to go do that. And every time I do that, it just leads me somewhere that I'm not meant to be. I made a post in our group earlier this year because I just kind of had this moment where I was just like, you know what? I have my own path and I can't get to where I need to be or where I'm going by walking on somebody else's path. I just can't. I am the only one that can walk my path, and my path is the only one I can walk. And so I need to just stay focused on my strengths and my talents and my goals and my likes and my desires and move in the direction that I need to go in. I'm not saying it's going to be easy to not compare because I do all the time. But every time we do, I think we just need to sit ourselves down and have some self-talk and be like, okay, is this something that you need to be doing? Does it fit in with your goals? Is it something that, in any way has anything to do with you or what you're capable of or what you want to do? And that's the thing. Like somebody's writing in the new genre. Ooh, should I go write in that genre? No, that's not one of my genres. I know what my genres are. If I read in it and I like it and I love it and I know it, that's something, that I want to do. If it's something I want to challenge myself with, then go for it. But don't just go do it because someone else is. Don't go run Facebook ads just because everybody else is having success running Facebook ads. Like for me, they stress me out so bad. Every time I'm running Facebook ads, I don't get any work done. All I can do is sit there and fiddle with them and focus on them and obsess over them. And in the end, I was like, okay, I am not in a place right now to do Facebook ads. So even though I see all these people having amazing success with it, that's not part of my journey right now. So I'm putting that aside for when I get around this next bend, but right now I'm not doing it. So anybody else, I saw this really quick thing really quick. And maybe we'll link at some point, but there's this lady I've been watching on YouTube and she said this really cool thing that envy is caused by thinking that what someone else has, we can't have it. That by them having it, it means that we can't. And the way we turn that around is by understanding that seeing that they have it means that we can too. That it's just proving that it's possible. And that you can't let envy take over. You have to be able to use the opposite of envy and celebrate for them and be excited for them, because not only is it good for them, but it shows you that something is possible and that it's available and that there's abundance in life and in this world. And so that was a really great way for me to think about that. Anybody else have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, for me, I'm the slowest writer in this group, and I always compare myself to how fast you guys are putting them. But I learned this year that trying to put out books fast doesn't make me happy. It makes me feel like I'm not able to put in what I need to in the books, or don't have the time to tweak it and make it as amazing as I want it to be. And so I've learned that just even setting a goal for 4 books a year is still really hard for me. So I'm just learning that my pace is my pace, and you guys have your own pace, and we all have our different strengths from those. And so I'm trying to remember I don't have to rapid release just like everyone, because so far going slower has worked out just great.
And I like what Michelle said, because that's literally how I see people who are successful. I go, oh, they can do it. That means I can do it. I just have to figure out how. And that's kind of more my mentality. And I was thinking about this too, because I get into comparisonitis all the time. There's always going to be somebody above you doing better than you are, and it's going to stress you out. And you're going to wonder why you are so far down and how they got up there. And just when we see the parents out in the public who seem to have perfect children, and then they're like, Jamie Albright, I went to her talk in 20 books, and she was funny because she told a story about, if you can go back and watch her talk, because she talks about writing slow, and this was in comparison, and how she was at a restaurant, and her kids were so perfect, and she was just basking in the gloriness of her kids being amazing. And then like all these people's kids were misbehaving, and she was just sitting there like, oh, my perfect children. And then she gets up and she's halfway across the restaurant, and the waitress is yelling at her that she forgot her baby at the table. And so she had to go back and get her baby, and everybody's staring at her now. And it really brought her down a bit. And I was like, that's really how we see like people who have high in ranks or their books are doing amazing, and we think, oh my gosh, they're so lucky they got up there, and we don't see any of the stuff that they had to do or how long they've been writing or all the heartbreaks that they've gone through to get to that point. And yet they are having the success. And I think for me, and maybe if you're so struggling with this, like at the beginning of the year, when you set your goals, like write a note to yourself, write a note to your December 2020 self and say, if you accomplish these goals, like this is what I see for you. And if you accomplish these goals, that means you're doing awesome. Like you're way excelling at my expectations for where I want to be. And then I think if you open that up and you read it and you're like, well, I already did that. I hit that number, or I had that many releases, or I did this, or I did that. Then you can say, listen, that's what I wanted for myself. Because if you just keep looking at what everybody else has and you say, I want what they have, like you're going to miss out the journey of that being an author, and you're always going to be unhappy and wishing, because you know what? The grass isn't always greener. You make more money, but then you want to make more money because everybody else above you is making more money. And you're going to find that problem where you're not going to have that happiness, because no matter how much money you're making, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, or if you're not, if you're always looking at other people, you're not going to find that happiness. And that's the thing that you're looking for.
Yeah. And comparison is so deceptive, right? So we look at somebody and we compare their rank to our rank, and we automatically put ourselves down. But we have no idea how much money they're spending to get to that rank. Or they might be struggling with doubt because so many of their reviews were not good, or maybe that they're feeling the pressure, or so much pressure to get there that they're not even enjoying the journey. I mean, like we cannot see into somebody else's life, and we cannot compare every single factor involved in somebody's success or happiness with ours and make direct correlations. It's just impossible. And the more we try to compare ourselves based on one thing, the more it blinds us to our own success and our own blessings. And so it's just something that, can turn you bitter. And as soon as you become bitter, then you've lost the joy and the spark and the happiness that, makes life worth living. So
can I say one real quick thing about this? As much as I agree 100% that you should do what works for you, I still think we should always be attempting to grow somehow as an author. I mean, whether it's working on your craft, working on your character development, working on your plotting, working on writing just a little bit faster, working on learning ads, Facebook ads, even if it stresses you out. Like, I think we should always be trying to grow. We're not saying get in this area and stay in this area. We're saying always reach out and look at how you could be doing something a little bit better. Because when you make those small steps and you learn what you're capable of, like everyone says, how do you write so fast? And honestly, compared to some people, I write really slow. But I was like, I didn't start out writing this fast. Every time I sat down, I remember 2 years ago, I was sitting down writing Forgiving the Billionaire, and I was writing 1,000 words a day. And that was all I could write. And I was done. But I slowly started increase at 200, increase at 150. And each time you do that, you're going to learn and expand because, and I had this discussion with my son tonight. I'm like, our brains are so capable of so much. And most of the time we're in our own heads and we're telling ourselves we can't do things. And I think that, yes, you have some strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes it doesn't benefit you to make a weakness, to work hard to make a weakness a strength, but maybe you can't get a weakness to a 10, but you could get weakness to a 3. But and if you've listened to Beck and Simon, you know what I'm talking about. If not, it make no sense. But basically, like, you should always be trying to work to better yourself as an author. So do it kindly and gently to yourself. But I'm always for try to do a little bit more this time than you did last time.
Yeah. I think, yeah, definitely. And my problem is though, I expect to go from 0 to 60 or whatever, instead of being okay with little increments over time. Because if you're continuing to do a little bit over time, over a long amount of time, you'll be way farther ahead instead of, not even trying, which is what happens if I'm trying to do too much.
So I love experimentation. I do it all the time. I think that's important and valuable and has a place. You just also have to understand that the most important part of experimentation is analyzing the results, right? So you have to try something, and then you have to get to a point where you look at it and you say, okay, what from this can I keep? What worked for me and what wasn't? What do I need to let go of? And, sometimes we let other people tell us, don't do this, or this is the only way it will work. And you can't listen to those people. You have to just say, you think you have something that works good? I'll try it out. I'll check it out. And then take what you can. So for example, everybody loves Sarah Cannon's HB90 course and all these sorts of things. And it's got so much good stuff in there. And it's really benefited, I think, almost everybody that I've talked to about it. And I got a lot out of it. When I tried to use her planner, I realized that there was so much in there that she found value in and that I didn't use. And I think she even talks to yourself, like you have to find the process that works for you. So one of the things I did this year was I realized that I did like planning. I did like the process of sitting down and putting things out on paper and looking at them. But I also realized that I had to construct something that was built for me. So I actually created my own planner. And I'm still experimenting with what works for me with that. And I did learn I need erasable pens and I need thick paper so I can move washi tape around. And that, that's important for me. So, I tried something and parts of it worked and parts of it didn't. And so I took what was valuable to me and what helped me to grow and move in my direction that I was trying to get to. And I used it. And it's the same thing with my plotting things. Some of it worked and some of it didn't. So I've gone back and pulled together from what worked in the past and what I've learned, and I'm creating this new place. So I definitely think that, learning what worked for you is important. And that process means that you're trying other things and learning and growing and experimenting. So, which is process, which we were talking about. And then I was leading into progress. There's all these P words I kept saying, and we don't have time to talk about all of them because we got to wrap this up. But I kept seeing themes. People were talking about process and progress and practice, and that practice was important for them, that their planning was important, that they had to treat this like a profession, that writing is not just a hobby for those of us who take it seriously. Like it's a job, it's a career, and we have to do the things that you need to do for, a serious pursuit like that. So, and passion projects, I kept saying passion projects, I think were important for me this year because I had a lot of things that I was trying to do specifically to write to market. And I had a few things that were just really, really important to my heart. And funny enough, I think that the things that I thought I was writing to market didn't do as well as some of my heart projects this year. And so that was kind of fun for me to see that, my passion projects can, be profitable and they're not just, self-indulgence, that they can be important and valuable. So as we're wrapping up here, is there anything that you guys wanted to talk about that we didn't get to tonight? I'm looking at my list that I wrote before we started. So
I think something that was really important that happened to me that's going to help me in making my 2020 goals is that I was chatting with a friend and she said something to me that really struck a chord with me. And she was saying that books that hit high or do well and stay well are memorable books. And that really lit a light bulb off in my mind that I said, am I writing memorable books or am I not? And I was like, I could do better. That's where I could really put my focus because I'm like, I want to write books that people are talking to their friends about because they read it and it just hit them right, maybe wrong. I read somewhere where someone was like, I hate cliffhangers. They're horrible. But she talked about it somewhere. Someone's going to say, well, what book was it that you read? And then they're going to go, you could have good people talking good about it or talking bad about it. But I want to write more memorable books. And that's going to really be my goal for 2020. And I think that where it goes back to all the marketing and all of the covers and blurbs that we talk about, what inside your book is what matters. And that's why, I mean, like Michelle's saying, her passion projects actually did better for her. My passion projects that I do sell really well because I love what I'm writing. I love the story. I want to be inside of it. I want to learn what happens next. And I can only imagine that that's how my reader feels. I like getting excited and going to my husband and being like, oh my gosh, the story just totally took a different turn and I wasn't expecting it, but I'm so excited because I now get to have this whole new experience that I wasn't expecting. So, and I think with the rapid releasing and all the planning and stuff we do, that we do lose sight of the fact that we still need to love what we're doing and the stories that we're telling and making them memorable for ourselves and for our readers. So and someone asked a question here, how do you keep from, oh, sorry. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry.
We need like waiting music.
Oh, wait, here we go. That asks, how do you keep your novels from being a rehash of the same old romance plot? And I actually had this fear, and we were discussing it amongst each other a couple of days ago, where I'm like, I'm kind of worried that that's going to happen to me, that I'm going to keep rehashing the same story as I write more and more. And Victorine, what did you say? You said something.
Oh no, I don't remember.
Well, I'm saying it's about if your characters are different, the situation doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, you can write the same situation, the same tropes, the same plot, basically. But if your characters are different and unique enough, then it takes it in a whole different direction and adds that spark and, you know, freshness to it.
Right.
It's all
Right.
about characters.
Right. And I think that if you feel like you're entering burnout or you're into procrastination, like really, to me, go back to your story and write the things that you love. Because I think one of the things Michelle said was that she wasn't doing those preparation things that she did beforehand. One, because she didn't have the time, but I also feel like you weren't very excited about the things that you had to write. And that's not, as creative people, what we want to do. You need to be excited about everything you do. So my biggest takeaway or my goals into planning 2020 is not to write faster or put more books out. It's just to love and I'm saying I don't love every story, but love every story and be excited and make them a memorable book, because that's what my readers deserve. And that's what my readers are going to keep coming back for more of. So that was mine. So I really appreciate my friend saying that to me, because I don't know why it took me 2 years of publishing to realize that this was an important thing. But I guess I just never had anyone say it to me in that way.
Yeah. So as we're looking at our next podcast, which is going to be December 5th, when we're talking about what our goals are for 2020, what we all talked about when we were planning this podcast tonight was we knew that there's this process that some of us are still going through to be able to decide what we want 2020 to look like and what we want to do. And I'm planning to take all these things that I've learned, and I'm going to spend a lot of time analyzing and making decisions based on a lot of these things that we've talked about and other things. One of those things is I'm going to take a real hard look at each of my books and each of my series and each of my genres and say what was profitable. Because right now I have this vague idea and I can pull up book reports and get a little bit of detail on it, but I want to see it in black and white. I want to see what was profitable, what worked, and pull as much data into it as I can. And I suspect that will lead me to write in different areas than I would have at the beginning of 2019 thought was where I needed to go. But I'm also being very aware of the fact that I have ADHD and I'm not officially diagnosed yet. I have 3 children who are diagnosed, and the more I see them and learn about them, the more I see it in myself. I see the time blindness that I struggle with, my distractibility, the need that I have to have novelty so I don't get bored, and my procrastination, and also, my creativity is a big part of that. So part of my plan for next year is going to involve diagnosis and all kinds of behavioral therapy and possibly some medication. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you, as all of you, as you're looking at this year. Do you have something like ADHD or anxiety or depression or some kind of physical ailment or family, turbulence that is impacting your writing. And if it is, look at it and give it its weight in the room, and what is this doing for my spirit, for my, my soul, who I am, how I feel, and how is this impacting my writing, my creativity, and what do I need to do about it and for it? So I think that, all of those things play such a huge role in this career. It's not like my husband's job is to go to work and he runs reports and punches numbers. He doesn't need to necessarily feel, ready to go in and be creative when he goes to work. But I do. I have to have my creativity ready to respond. And so all of those things matter and make a big difference. Anybody else want to talk about anything else? This has been a
do I have any questions that weren't answered?
Take it, Victorine.
Well, my contacts are glossing over right now, so I cannot read that little print.
Okay, go ahead.
I got it. So Genevieve Goodwin asked, Michelle, how long are your novellas?
My novellas have ranged from right at 28,000 to 38,000 this year. So right in that range. I try to get them as long as I can, but 30,000 is kind of my sweet spot.
Awesome. All right. Stone McGuire asks, Anne Marie, I remember you write that your husband was starting to write a book. How's it going for him? So yes, my husband is writing a book. He got 33,000 words into it and realized his plot wasn't working because he didn't listen to his wife, who tried to give him advice, but he wouldn't listen to me. No, I don't want to write that kind of book. I want to write something new and fresh and different. And I was like, well, you're not writing a plotted book, so you go ahead and write that way. So he's actually scratching what he has and he's going back to the beginning, which we all did. And then today he was like, honey, we really need to sit down and I need you to help me with my plot. So, but his is a little more complicated because it's like YA science fiction. And I'm like, well, if you don't know how they're going to defeat the aliens in the end, then you really need to figure out your story because that's kind of all what you're working towards. Like you need to know these kinds of things. Like that's something you have to know. Like in romance, I know they're going to get together. So then they're going to get to that end. But in an alien sci-fi, you need to know how they're going to kill the aliens. So we're going to, he was struggling and I said, okay, let me tell you how I think that if I was to write this story, this is how I would do it. And I explained it to him. He's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes a little sense. But I'm like, you can't mess with like how storytelling has to happen. Like you can mess with a whole lot of other things, but pacing and plotting the story in the direction that you need to go is important. So, but he's excited. He's gonna get back on it, but he's got a lot more respect for me now in the writing process, having gone through it and knowing what it's like. Okay. So we just, how would we help someone who just has the fear of putting in the work to write? So this is, what advice would you give to, I keep opening and closing it, sorry. Someone who is struggling to start writing because of perfectionism or just the fear of putting in the work to write?
Well, as far as perfectionism, that's what editing is for. And I actually had this book that 2 books ago, I turned it into my editor and I got back and she said, this didn't have your usual flair. And I was like, what? And I ended up having this long back and forth conversation with her. And she just talked about how I've grown as a writer since she's been working with me. And she's worked with me since early 2000. Well, let me think. This whole year, she's been my editor, and I think she started at the end of 2018. But she wasn't with me for some of the early books in my Billionaire series. So she started during that series. And she says that she has seen me grow as an author so much. And it's because I'm putting out lots of books, guys. The more you write, the better you get. But she saw that I had taken a back step in that book because of some of the pressures and stuff that I was going on. And it was kind of interesting to me to see to someone specifically say, these are the ways that you've grown and improved over this year. If I was to go back to my first book, which I just got a really bad review on, somebody came on there and said, this is obviously a first book and it's the first book that shouldn't have been published and all this sort of stuff. And you know what? Yeah, they're probably right. They probably are right. And that's what's killer. But the thing is that if we all tried to only have perfect books out or not publish until we were perfect, we wouldn't get out there. We wouldn't do it and we wouldn't learn. You actually grow and improve through publishing, not just writing. Publishing is actually a great way to improve your skills because you do get that feedback from reviewers and you do see what's working, you do see what's selling, and it is so much more valuable than just writing a book and putting it in a box. So perfectionism is not going to happen. It's art. It's not supposed to be perfect. It really is not supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's art.
You have to give yourself permission to write something that isn't perfect.
Yes.
And then you can go back and you can edit and make it better. But just give yourself permission to just write and free yourself from that burden of perfectionism.
Yeah. I see so many people who study craft. They go to classes, they go to conferences, they read books, they learn and learn and learn and learn and learn and learn. And then they go and actually try and apply it. And it doesn't just happen. You know, it's like somebody trying to read about how to go and shoot a layup and then walking out on the court and trying to shoot a layup. You can know mentally what the mechanics are and what they should be, but the actual act of doing it is something that can only happen through practice and experience and doing the thing. And that's what writing is. No matter how much you learn about the art or craft of writing, you can only become a better writer by writing and by being imperfect and by struggling and making mistakes and learning from them. So, and if you're struggling with the actual work of writing, then I say maybe you're not passionate enough about it. Just going to put that out there bluntly. Like, work is hard. Writing is hard for all of us at points, and we have to make ourselves do it. But if in general all the time you're struggling to make yourself writing, then you're lacking that passion, and you need to find it. If this is something you want to do, you need to find the passion. What will make you excited? What will make you to where you can't stand time away from your story because you're so anxious to get back to it? So find your passion.
Perfect. All right. So Stephanie Street asks, so with the pre-order conversation, would you not write more than one book in a series before putting anything up to see what the real interest is? So for me personally, I would plan a 5-book series. I would get plots or at least blurbs or an idea of what I'm going to do with those. And I don't normally ever put a pre-order up. Now I am not that way anymore because I know I can hit pre-order deadlines. But normally I don't put anything up until I'm about a third of the way through the book. And that's when I start sticking the pre-order up. Especially if something that I'm testing, I want to make sure that I'm interested in the project, first of all, enough to write it, that I have a plan for the series and I know where things are going. And that's when I would put the interest up. Would I ever start a series when I don't have an idea for a series in mind? Or when I ever start a story and I have a series in mind? No, because you make profit through series. So I would just loosely plan it and then put up the first book, see what the interest is. And if I'm seeing that there's real interest, then I would go that direction. I would not suggest doing something like this for a brand new author, though. I think you have a lot to learn about marketing and blurbs and writing a book and publishing and all those sorts of things. But if you're in a series or if you're a published author and you have some series behind you and you're looking to go into new categories or try something different, I think this is for me, it's been really helpful for me to know in what direction I need to go in, engaging interest in that way. Because I don't want to move my focus off of things that are making me money right now into something that's not going to make me money, but I have to finish because I dedicated myself to doing it. And so, or, you know, I kind of like to be prepped and know exactly what's going to happen when I release the series. So if I can get good interest with just a pre-order, then I know this is a series that I should continue moving forward with. And when people start responding on my Facebook ads, oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait for this to come out. I've read this 3 times, you know, because I offer them a little sneak peek of the actual book. And so I'm doing multiple things. I'm gathering newsletters. I'm getting a sneak peek. They're getting a sneak peek, and I'm gathering interest in that sort of thing. And I'm getting data from them. All those things kind of come together, and it was a really good determiner of if this series is going to do well or not. So yeah, that's what I would basically do. I would never write a book without a series in mind, because if it does really do well and it does take off, then you want to bank on that and continue having an idea to keep going with. Okay. So we answered that question. Everyone's just thankful for us. Oh, here we go. If you had a book written about you, which trope would you want? Ooh,
My favorite trope of the moment is forbidden love, but I'm already married, so it's complicated.
I always loved forbidden love too, and I'm married, and so
Yeah.
It was forbidden at the time.
I think mine would be enemies to lovers. I think that's my favorite trope, and I think it would be fun. And it kind of explains my husband has a relationship. So we're not really enemies, but
What about, I don't know. My favorite secret relationships or like fake relationships. I love those. So.
That's perfect. Okay, and this one is perfect for Judy to respond to. Payday. When do you take time to celebrate?
I celebrate when I release a book. I always take my family out to dinner to kind of reward them for putting up with stressful, busy mom for a while. And then today, with this latest book, I had a cake from my self-publisher myself. And it was awesome.
I used to celebrate by finishing a book by buying myself a 3-pound Columbus salami. People think that's so weird that I don't buy chocolate, but I actually have this thing for cured meat.
Salami is delicious. We have some.
It's my favorite, and you can get it all over the place in California, but you can't get it in Arkansas.
I was gonna say, you're not in California, though.
I know. My grandmother lives in California, so when anybody goes to visit my grandmother, I'm like, bring me a salami. My mom will come back with the suitcase with all these tubular shapes. It look like torpedoes in her suitcase, and she's always like, you're going to get me in trouble one of these days.
Does she have like a meat suitcase? Because I'm sure the suitcase ends up smelling like meat.
She's left shirts behind for me so that she can.
Funny.
But anyway, that's how I celebrate.
What about you, Victorine?
Chocolate and going out to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, with my schedule right now, I celebrate by starting my next book. So, and then I always make sure that I go to movies regularly. I hang out with my husband regularly. I'm loving and hating my kids. And so sometimes I don't want to hang out with them regularly, but those are all things that I've always fed into my life. So I just go, hey, we're going on a date. This is a celebration for my book that I launched today. So, okay, one more question. No, sorry, this one. I just released my first book. It was a holiday romance and it's not doing well. Do you have any advice on how to get in front of readers?
Is the holiday Christmas? And the answer is yes. You have plenty of time to get that baby selling and be marketing it and all that sort of stuff. If it's not doing well, re-examine your tagline, your cover, your blurb, everything like that. Make sure that I promise you, even if it's good, it can be improved. So try that.
And I would say I don't stress out about holiday books until the 1st of December.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say, if it's not a Christmas book, it's probably not going to sell because it's a holiday book ever. Easter, St. Patrick's Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, none of them sell. You might get a slight uptick if you write paranormal, cozy mysteries, and it's Halloween. Mm-hmm. But no, holidays are not a trope. They're not a trope. Christmas is a category that has its own tropes, but you can't sell other holidays. It just can't. So that would be your problem. Find something else to market it with.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was a very long episode. I was going to say, if you join Lee Savino's group, Millionaire Mastermind, she's actually starting a Facebook get together, I think on December 20th, where she's going to talk about goals and setting goals with her. And Lee is really, really good at setting goals, and she's such a positive person to talk to. And you just feel like you're the greatest author once you finish talking to her. So if you're looking for some inspiration and feel like that, join her group. And so you can be part of that live where she talks about setting goals and stuff like that. She's pretty awesome. And if not, then you'll just see us 2 weeks from now when we talk about our goals.
On December 5th.
On December 5th. And then I don't know, are we going to do a second one in December, or are we going to just wait till January since it's Christmas time?
Hold on. Let me see what the date is, because I'm terrible at just knowing the dates right off the top of my head. I could just say, so it's the 19th?
Yeah, the 19th.
So my son is coming home from his 2-year mission on the 19th. So I will be out.
So I think we'll probably just
Wait till January.
wait till January. So one more episode in 2019, and that's when we'll talk about goals, and then we'll go from there.
Yes.
No pressure for that episode.
And then I can put a
awesome.
link for the Millionaire Mastermind group inside of the Writing Gals if anybody is interested. But
Yep.
it is almost 12 o'clock in Minnesota, and I am like the screen's
This might be our longest podcast ever.
I think so.
Fingers in the
Bye.
air. Let's get off of here.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Subscribe.
Yeah.
Follow us on Facebook.